Melania Trump came armed with surefire applause lines when she stepped up to address a largely female audience that had gathered to celebrate other women. The First Lady showcased the record number of women serving in Congress. She said women's unemployment had hit its lowest level in 65 years, though it has since ticked up slightly. And she highlighted the more than 2 million women who have joined the workforce since November 2016, when her husband was elected president. "This is something to celebrate," Mrs. Trump declared at Thursday's State Department event, where many of her lines easily could have fit into a campaign stump speech. But as U.S. President Donald Trump shows his eagerness for the coming 2020 re-election battle, less clear is Mrs. Trump's fervor for joining the effort. She largely avoided the campaign trail in 2016, citing her desire to be home for the couple's young son, Barron, now 12. And spokeswoman Stephanie Grisham predicted that once again, Mrs. Trump is going to want to be home for her son, no matter his age. Read more. Where's Melania Trump? First Lady not seen in public for 3 weeks. Melania Trump aide blasts flat-out false marriage trouble reports. Trump denies Melania never wanted to be in the White House as President. Donald Trump shows his eagerness for the coming 2020 re-election battle, less clear as the First Lady's fervor to take part. People in Trump's political orbit, for their part, are skeptical that one of the most private First Ladies in modern history would want to take on a big, public role in her husband's bid to win another 4 years in office. Even if Mrs. Trump sticks largely to her official role, though, there's plenty she can do to try to help her husband connect with women, a voting bloc with whom Trump is particularly vulnerable. Beyond the State Department appearance, Mrs. Trump showed growing ease with her role in the past week, as she also made a 3-state swing to promote the 3 pillars of her Be Best Children's initiative and accompanied her husband to Alabama to survey tornado damage. In Oklahoma, she chatted with second graders about the burdens of homework and watched older students in a science class measure the density of different colored liquids. In Washington state, she watched as Microsoft executives demonstrated features to help protect children online. In Las Vegas, she delivered a pointed jab at the news media, prodding the press to spend as much time highlighting the opioid epidemic as it devotes to idle gossip or trivial stories. And in the tornado zone, the stiletto-friendly First Lady wore sneakers as she played empathetic backup to her husband. She participated in a briefing, joined the president as he greeted relief workers, engaged with victims with him and on her own, and signed autographs. Melania Trump talks with Imani, 13, of Mombasa, Kenya, during her visit to the National Institutes of Health to see children at the Children's Inn in Bethesda, Maryland. Recent First Ladies have all taken prominent roles in re-election campaigns. Michelle Obama, Laura Bush, Hillary Clinton and Barbara Bush all campaigned separately from their husbands at re-election time. Catherine Jellison, a history professor at Ohio University who studies First Ladies, said they can help their husbands politically by reaching out to female audiences and showing up at smaller venues than where the president campaigns. Typically, the president and the First Lady are the family superstars, said Jellison, adding that it was hard to find a more reclusive First Lady in recent history than Mrs. Trump. Trump continues to suffer from low approval ratings among women, which could prove challenging as he faces a Democratic primary field with a historic number of female candidates vying to run against him in 2020. In Gallup's latest tracking poll, Trump had a 36% approval rating among women, which is about where it's held throughout his presidency. Still, polls broadly show Republican women are overwhelmingly likely to support him, as they do the First Lady. Her appeal to other female demographics remains an open question. In a Quinnipiac University poll conducted in November 2018, about 2/3 of Republican registered voters, or 65%, said they had a favorable opinion of Mrs. Trump, while just 3% said they viewed her unfavorably. But just 35% of registered voters overall said they had a favorable opinion of her, and 20% said they had an unfavorable view. The same survey showed that 63% of registered voters said they had a favorable opinion of Mrs. Obama, and 24% said they had an unfavorable one. But that may at least be partially due to the fact that Mrs. Trump has kept a much lower profile than her predecessor. Nanyapa of Burma poses with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and First Lady Melania Trump as she is awarded the 2019 International Women of Courage on March 7. Ms. Trump limited her role in the 2016 campaign to just a handful of appearances and interviews. Her most memorable moment came during the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, when her high-profile speech was quickly overshadowed by accusations that she had stolen passages from a speech given by Mrs. Obama. A speechwriter later took responsibility and apologized. With her husband out campaigning, Mrs. Trump wanted their son, who was 9 when his dad became a candidate, to have one parent at home at their Trump Tower penthouse in New York. Barron turns 13 later this month, and he will be 14 by the time the re-election effort is in full swing. Grisham said that it was too early for campaign scheduling and that the First Lady was focused on her family, her duties as First Lady, and the nearly year-old Be Best Childhood initiative, which focuses on well-being, cyberbullying and opioid abuse. Campaigning aside, Mrs. Trump, 48, remains one of her husband's closest advisors. She's also independent and protective of her husband and carefully picks the moments when she strikes out politically. Last autumn, she told a TV interviewer that she had told the president about staffers they couldn't trust and that some of those people no longer worked for him as a result. Melania Trump largely avoided the campaign trail in 2016, limiting her role to a handful of appearances and interviews. And in an extraordinary intervention into West Wing operations by a First Lady, she engineered the dismissal of Deputy National Security Advisor Mira Ricardel following a disagreement over the use of assets for the First Lady's week-long trip to Africa last October. Critics have noted that Mrs. Trump's husband routinely mocks people on Twitter. But, much like her spouse, she has been dismissive of the media. As she set out on the Be Best tour, Mrs. Trump ignored a reporter's shouted question about whether she accepted an apology from Michael Cohen, the president's former longtime personal lawyer. He recently testified to Congress that he regretted lying to the First Lady about his role in arranging to buy the silence of porn star Stormy Daniels and one-time Playboy model Karen McDougal, both of whom have said they had sex with Trump before he became president. Trump has denied the relationships. Mrs. Trump has never commented publicly about the allegations. By ignoring the question, she signaled she wasn't about to start now, AP.